Hello, magnificent entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 342, which means you can find all the relevant links and the show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/342. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you 7 different models of business leverage that you might like to consider when moving from a one-to-one model into a one-to-many model. So if you've been considering adding another leverage product to your business, or you want to be prepared and start thinking about what models you might move towards, this is going to be a super helpful episode for you. Let's dive on in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. So first and foremost, what do I mean when I say leverage? So we've got different models of leverage in your business. And what I mean by that is where you are able to serve more clients in less time because you're working in that one-to-many model. So generally what we're looking for when we move into a leveraged model in our business, or we add a leveraged product into our business, is that we want to be making more money or serve more people or have more results with either the same or less time and effort going into creating those results. So, of course, creating leverage in your business is very sexy. We get very excited about working in a one-to-many model, and it allows a lot of significant scaling and shifts as you move forward into more leverage into your business. So, it's not just scaling up the delivery and being able to serve more clients, but it also has more scalable marketing in a lot of cases as well. So you can start really getting your product in front of more and more people and having them say yes without necessarily having a one-to-one conversation with you. I still do recommend offering and having one-to-one conversations when you're selling leverage products, especially in the early launches, because it gives you so much insight into the messaging. But we're moving towards being able to make far more sales without having to have all of those one-to-one interactions to get them. It can be better for you because you only have to show up to 1 hour a week of calls, but you're serving 30 clients versus having 30 calls a week to serve 30 clients. So of course that leverage can mean it's freeing up time for you. It can mean that you're able to take on more clients without any additional workload. So there's some great benefits for you and your business. But also something that I think a lot of us underestimate is how valuable it is for clients to work in a group program. So in a lot of cases, moving into a leveraged model is actually a better fit for a portion of your clients as well. Some people, myself included, prefer learning in a group environment. Some people need flexible learning options. They can't show up to a live one-to-one call with you on time every week for 12 weeks because life is too busy. So they need something they can do at their own pace. Some people like to review and redo things over and over again in order to really cement and implement. Some people require accessibility and flexible learning options that aren't available when you're just working one-to-one with someone. So there can be a lot of reasons why moving into leverage is really sexy and very effective and helpful for both you and your audience as well. But there are a lot of different ways that you can leverage. In fact, there are dozens and dozens of different business models and different models of leverage that you are able to choose from. Now, knowing what I know about my audience, that's you listening along, particularly heart-centered entrepreneurs, people who start their business working one-to-one a lot of the times, service-based businesses, healing businesses, all of those sorts of things. I have selected what I think are probably the 7 main models of leverage that we have to choose from that you would most commonly see in businesses like ours. And that makes sense as a transition from a one-to-one model into a one-to-many model. So I've got 7 of them. I'll give you a brief description. But I also do have a detailed training on this that I'm happy for you to access free of charge as well. So I will pop the link to the detailed training in the show notes of today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/342. So if you want to hear more detail around the pros and cons and how to move into each of these models, then make sure that you come and check out the link on the show notes today. Okay, so model number 1 is a VIP group model. And I love the VIP group model as the first model of leverage because it requires the least amount of sales. It has the softest transition from one-to-one into leverage, and there's less risk of a significant decline in your income. That's something that not a lot of people talk about. When you move into a leveraged model, often it's a much cheaper option for people. So you have to make more sales to make the same amount of money. And the marketing that's required to get a sale of a leveraged product is generally more than selling one-to-one. So you have to do more marketing. You have to get more sales to make the same amount of money in the first instance. Whereas if you move into a VIP group, you can still charge premium pricing. You're only requiring a small handful of people to join, and you get to practice delivering at a one-to-many way. You can still use high connection strategies to get the sales, but you can practice selling in a one-to-many way as well. And it's the softest and most gentlest transition in my experience. So that's option number 1, offering a small VIP group model of something, whether it's evergreen or a course, or whether, start and finish, whether it's a mastermind. Like, there's lots of different ways to do it, but VIP group model is model number 1. Model number 2 is the course model. So creating a self-study or facilitated with some live components course, online course that takes people from one space to another through online learning of some sort. That can be live, it can be pre-recorded, it can have live components, it can be completely self-study. There's lots of different ways to do it within the course model, but the course model is another one that's very helpful because particularly for service-based businesses, a lot of what we do with our one-to-one clients ends up being very common amongst our clients. You can see there was a step-by-step process that most people roughly followed. So that's something that can then be translated into a step-by-step process that people can follow on their own or follow in a group environment as well. So course model can be very sexy for us to move into. It can be very effective, particularly in the service-based businesses. And it also, course model is great because you don't have to change niches. You're delivering the same outcome to the same niche, just with a different delivery model. And so there's not a lot of messaging change that needs to happen. It's also a very simple and effective transition in most cases into a course model. Model number 3 is the membership model. So it's similar to the course model, but it's a recurring payment. So rather than paying $1,000 to do a course or, a payment plan of 4 payments of $250, people are joining with the expectation that they're going to remain in there for an extended period of time, and they'll pay for that privilege consistently. So it might be a membership where people pay $75 a month to be part of that membership, and it's an ongoing payment. The payment plan is never done. So a membership model generally has a monthly, quarterly, or yearly payment attached to it, and that's an ongoing model of delivery. Now, a membership model is similar to a course model in that it can be for the exact same niche, with the exact same process and the exact same messaging. But with a membership model, there needs to be a reason why it's an ongoing relationship, why it's an ongoing delivery. Where a course generally teaches a process that's more complex, but once you've taught it, they get it, they're on their way. A membership often is for something that's less complex. It's faster to learn, but it takes a lot more practice to implement consistently. So, for example, you might have a course on how to cook healthier meals for your children, and it's got like a different recipe to try each week, plus some tips for shopping, some tips for pantry, meal prep, those sorts of things. And like once you've learned it, right? And that's it. But then you might also, within that same niche, there might be something that's simple like meal planning, that it's simple to learn how to do a meal plan, but the practice of doing it over and over and building your template bank and your recipe bank and your understanding of what's a staple and what needs to be purchased and all that kind of stuff might take practice, and it might take putting some time aside. So a membership model might be used for teaching meal planning, but then also having that accountability and that sharing of different recipes and setting aside the time to do the meal planning. So we all do our meal planning together on a Sunday afternoon. So you can see the course model is more for teaching some of the more complex parts of feeding your children healthier food, whereas the membership model is for the things that's not necessarily complex, but it takes practice, accountability, setting the time aside, that shared networked model. And the longer you stay, the better you are at practicing it, and the more recipes you get access to, and all of that kind of stuff. So there's a value in staying as a member. So that's a basic example of the differences between courses and memberships. But a lot of people's assumptions about what fits a course better and what fits a membership is often not true. And the things that you think you have to do a membership to get, like recurring income, you can actually get from a course as well. Or the things that you think you have to do a course for, like being high ticket, you can have a high ticket membership as well. I do have a previous podcast episode on the pros and cons of courses versus memberships. I'll make sure that I link to that in the show notes of today's episode as well, if you want to find out a bit more depth on that one, at tashcorbin.com/342. Number 4 is the agency model. So the agency model refers to whenever you as a service provider hire other people to deliver your services. So you may be a one-to-one Facebook ads manager, and you want to leverage your time. You want to serve more people with less of your time taken up. So you hire people in your team and you train them up in your methodology of ads management, and then you send your team members to be ads managers for other people. So you're responsible for all the sales and marketing, but you're not responsible for all of the delivery. So you outsource, or you use an agency model to have other people delivering the service. Some people use agency model for courses and memberships as well. So you might join a membership that is for XYZ person who is an expert in something, but inside the membership, everything's delivered by their coaches, their sub-coaches, their team. So one, if you're going to do that, please be upfront about it. I've joined a few memberships where there's zero access to the person whose membership I was joining. I was like, I thought I was joining your membership, not your team's membership. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But with agency model, you want to be very transparent about the fact that it's agency model. But that lends itself to creating a lot of credibility in certain niches. So things like website development and social media management, and like where it's delivering a technical service or something along those lines, saying that you have 6 experts on hand that would be able to run your ads for you actually makes your business look bigger, right? Like that creates its own level of credibility. Not everything feels like it has to be the business owner delivering it in order for me to get the best results. I know I use a Facebook ads agency a few times, and I've also worked with individuals who they are the ads manager and that's their entire business. They're a solo business. And there are benefits to working with an agency model. For example, if my ads manager was ever off work or sick or anything like that, anyone else in the team could take over managing for it, and it was seamless for me. Additionally, like a business owner running ads means their time is divided between doing your ads and managing your ads for you, and then also marketing and getting more clients and all of their other clients and that kind of thing as well. And so I found, it's not always the case, but sometimes working with an agency, they're far more responsive, and the person who's working with you is solely focused on delivering great outcomes for you. They don't have a role in marketing, and so therefore I got a lot more responsiveness, or I got a lot more attention on me, because they want to do a good job and deliver for me. They're not thinking about where their next client is coming from. That's the responsibility of marketing or of the business owner. So there are definitely benefits for clients of the agency model, as well as benefits for you as a provider. Number 5 is the product model. So this is where you sell a physical or digital product. So it's far more passive than a course, but it might be that you sell books or you sell planners. Now my planner is not a product because it comes with workshops and it's got live delivery. So it's more a program or a course model. It's not a pure product model. It's a hybrid. But you can also, there are other businesses that they purely just sell a planner, or you sell books, or you sell coffee cups or candles. Now, for a lot of service-based businesses, the moving to the product model only makes sense where you have a very high turnover, large audience, large profit margin on the products, and it's complementary. So a lot of people get drawn into the product model and then quickly realize this is more effort than it's worth. So, if you think about delivering one-to-one, you have a VIP client, it's $2,500, super high profit margins because you're giving your time to deliver that. And then you start selling sticker sheets for $2 and they cost you 25 cents to get them printed. But you also have to factor in postage and returns and customer service. And you think, oh my gosh, I could just sell one VIP package, which would be far, far easier and get me far more money than trying to sell hundreds of thousands of sticker packs. So the product model from a one-to-one model into products can tend to be trickier. But if it's high ticket products, that can be really good. Or if you've got a very large scale audience, and it's complementary to what you're doing one-to-one, it can absolutely work. There's definitely pros and cons to product. And there's also ways to do it where you don't have inventory. So using things like drop shipping or print on demand, those sorts of things definitely helps with making the product model far more profitable and less time intensive as well. Number 6 is the low ticket model. Now, I've separated this out as a separate model because, yes, there are low ticket courses and low ticket memberships and low ticket products, but there's also like a whole industry that is built on simply creating low ticket products, digital products in particular. But low ticket is like almost its own category. Regardless of what the thing is that's low ticket, it has its own strategies, and so therefore I separate it out as a separate model. So the low ticket model of leverage, again, requires very high audience numbers, very high conversion rates, those sorts of things, but can be very helpful where you've got a technical service, but you don't necessarily want to move to the agency model. So that might be something like you're in the legal space and you don't want to hire other lawyers, but your capacity is getting a bit maxed out. So you sell contract templates. And so that's a template, it's a product, it's low ticket or far lower in price than working with you as a lawyer one-to-one, but it's a great downsell for people who aren't necessarily ready to invest at the one-to-one level. And it's a way to get some of those repetitive things that you don't necessarily want to be doing one-to-one with people off your plate. You just sell it as a template. Similarly for website developers, I know a few website developers who sell website templates. So you can work with them for $5,000 and they'll build you a bespoke website, or you can buy a template for $250 and build it yourself. So that can work for particularly those more technical type services. It's a good fit because there's a big gap between someone who wants to buy a low ticket and someone who wants to work with you VIP. It doesn't devalue your VIP as much. And especially if you don't have courses. If you have a high ticket course or a VIP group program or a membership, low ticket can actually erode value from those other leveraged models in your business. So be mindful. Sometimes you're better off having free and high ticket when it comes to leverage and not having low ticket in between, because it can create a gap in perception of value. And also something that happened for me was when Takeoff became a $2,000 program, I brought in a low ticket course that was like the pre-Takeoff stuff. But what that ended up doing was it delayed people joining the Takeoff program, because even though people had only spent $50 or $100 on that product, they didn't want to buy anything else until they'd finished it. Or they didn't want to buy anything else until they'd got all the value that they could and they'd implemented it 100%. It created a lot of perfectionism. And so where people would normally do my free stuff and then join the Takeoff program within 60 to 90 days, if they did my free stuff and bought low ticket, it would take them 3 to 4 times as long to then come and join the Takeoff program. Now, I know there are lots of marketers out there who sell the idea that tripwires and getting low ticket gets sales in the door far quicker and increases the likelihood that they'll buy the next thing. But that's not always the truth. It's not always the case. And a lot of the time, the way that the strategy is taught is that you don't deliver with the low ticket. You under deliver. So the people who get this to work really well often will make lofty promises of what the low ticket thing will deliver. But then on the inside, it's far less detailed than you would think, or it's far less involved, or far less valuable to the person than they had perceived. Oh, I see. It's only this or it's only that. It doesn't actually give me the whole picture. And then because it doesn't give the whole picture, it's a faster upsell to the high ticket and into the next thing. Also, they will use a lot of scarcity and urgency tactics. So if you've ever purchased something low ticket before, you get this countdown time that says you've got 42 minutes to upgrade to the $1,000 thing and you will never get it this cheap again. And so they're creating pressure and urgency to force that decision without actually you ever having done the low ticket thing. They use the low ticket thing more as a tool, a marketing tool, than actually something that's delivering anything. And so the people that I work with and people listening to my podcast, generally that's out of values alignment to them. It feels like it's not in integrity to create something that doesn't deliver, or to create something that you don't want people to actually do. And so because they don't use those fear, urgency, and scarcity tactics, it doesn't convert as well as they were promised. And actually, they would be better off not having that low ticket thing in the middle. So low ticket definitely has its place, but there can be some risks with it. And sometimes it can reduce the effectiveness of an existing funnel or launch, even though everyone out there would have you believe that a low ticket thing is always going to increase conversion. That's definitely not the case. Number 7, the final model that I see as mostly being aligned with our community is the event model. And so this is running conferences, running retreats, running workshops, in-person workshops, going on a speaking tour, those sorts of things. Again, there's pros and cons to different types of events and adding events to your business model. But it can be a very good model for those people who particularly aspire to be on the speaking circuit, people who love doing the in-person connection, people who love curating luxury experiences and facilitating retreats. A lot of people that I work with have events on their list of things that they would love to offer in their business. And I think it's a really great thing to add to your business model when you've nailed the foundations of the one-to-one. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see people make with the event model is they move into events too soon. They don't have a large enough audience, and they just end up running so many puny little events with 3 people there, or they just don't get the numbers that they need for the type of event that they were putting together, and they find themselves feeling really frustrated. I see that a lot with moving to retreats too soon. People just assume everyone's going to want this. This is amazing. It's sexy. It's so luxury. It's so amazing. And then they get no one buy, or worse, they get one person buy, and you budgeted everything based on 8 people coming on this retreat, and it's actually making a loss if only one person comes. So then you have to cancel on the person. That's not fun. Or running like low ticket events, and you need 100 people in the room for it to make sense, and you get 16, and that can be really demoralizing. So we want to make sure we've got proof of concept for moving into the event model and a large enough audience for the event model to make sense. And there are ways that you can waitlist and split test and get interest in events well before you actually make any commitment to running events as well. So that's a really fun one too, is moving into the event model. So that is the 7 models of business leverage that I see most people in the heart-centered space would find the most helpful or the most aligned to the work that we do. As I said at the start of the episode, if you would like the detailed training to help you decide which models and making sure that you're prepared for each of them, then please do come over to the show notes of today's episode at tashcorbin.com/342. And I'll have there the link to the detailed training. And also I will have the link there to that podcast episode around choosing between a course and a membership, and the pros and cons of each model and what can and can't be achieved with each model as well. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. Until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Big love from me, and bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.